Brother lads, welcome back to the Cossy Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Welcome back to brand new video. This latest Arsenal news and transfer news as well. Arsenal are working hard to sign a striker before preseason. Mikel Arteta demands that we sign a number 9 before preseason work starts, and that could be Benjamin Sesko or that could be Brand Brobby, because those two players in the profile and also in the price range that Arsenal are willing to spend money on. We're going to be discussing those two, but of course Kai Havertz today, we have received confirmation still that Kai Havertz is going to be Arsenal's main man in terms of a number 9 next season. So Arsenal are just working to add in another extra backup striker. It is not going to be your Victor Gyökeres. It's not going to be your Alexander Isak, because Newcastle as well are asking for in excess of 190 million for Alexander Isak. So Arsenal are looking at cheaper targets and also younger targets as well. Hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast as well. I kind of feel like this is a joke that Arsenal are going to continue with Kai Havertz, but many of you in the comment box have told me because he has done well towards the back end of the campaign, maybe giving him a full season as number 9, that could actually produce for us things that we never imagined we could get with Kai Havertz. So let's have the conversation. Kai Havertz, is he the guy to lead the line for Arsenal next season? And then, what do you think about Benjamin Sesko? What do you think about Brand Brobby in terms of being backup strikers to Kai Havertz if it goes wrong? If Kai Havertz doesn't hit the numbers that he's been hitting during the back end of the campaign, do you trust a Benjamin Sesko to come in and do the job? Do you trust a Brand Brobby from Ajax? He's had 2 good campaigns in Ajax and in the Netherlands. Do you actually trust him to come in and actually do the job as we look to close the gap on Manchester City? Do me a massive favor, hit the like button. We are looking at 300 likes on this video. Right, let's start off with the big story of Kai Havertz. Today it has been confirmed through very reliable sources that Kai Havertz is going to be Arsenal's main man next season in terms of a striker. So Arsenal are not looking to spend huge amounts of money to better or even to top of the current number 9. We are actually looking to support him, to give him that kind of support, that kind of depth, so that all goals are not coming from Kai Havertz, so that number 9 position has another goal scorer. But in terms of who's going to lead the line for Arsenal next season, it's going to be King Kai Havertz. Now, I don't have a problem with Kai being our lead number 9. My only problem is, does he give us the goals that Manchester City are getting from Julian Alvarez and Erling Haaland? Because we know how much Mikel Arteta hates squad rotation. So that means that if Kai Havertz is going to be our number 9, that means that he's got to be able to give us 20 plus goals in a single campaign, right? I think he's done well during the back end of the campaign. He's been a very, very massive player, to the way we play, the way we score goals, the way we defend. I think for Mikel Arteta, he found the perfect player for his system. But finding the perfect player for your system and finding a player that closes the gap between you and Man City. Man City are an entity, an establishment that have been worked on for the last 10, 15 years. So is Kai Havertz the difference maker? Is Kai Havertz the reason Arsenal closed the gap? I am not really sure about that. I'm not really convinced about that. But it's going to be our number 9, and that means that the profile of who we want to sign actually changes. I think I've talked about this right from a couple of weeks ago. The Arsenal are thinking about changing who their number 9 targets are because of what we want to do with Kai Havertz. Because we signed him as a midfielder, and Mikel Arteta thought he was going to come in as a midfielder and do the job, but he has actually failed. And we're hearing Arsenal want to sign another midfielder in the 6, and that could be Joao Neves. That would be the smartest signing Arsenal have ever made in their lives. But if Arsenal go and sign Joao Neves in the number 6, still very young, but of course he would be under the nurturing of Jorginho and Thomas Partey if they stay. If we bring in Joao Neves, that means that Arsenal have signed a number 6 for the next 20 years, or maybe it's the next 15 years. Declan Rice is your number 8 then, on the left-hand side for the next 10 years as well. So that means that Kai Havertz has got to commit to the top of the shop. He's got to stay as your striker, as your forward, as your number 9. Huge mistake in my opinion for Arsenal to trust Kai Havertz. He's had a very good campaign, especially the second half, but I still think it would have been a massive opportunity for us to go and make a statement signing of a striker this summer. Now, Mikel Arteta has made it very clear that he wants his striker, or the number 9 is going to come in before preseason work starts. I've been literally shocked a little bit. Arsenal's preseason work this season, or this summer, is actually not as busy as we are used to. I think last summer we played around 3 or 4 games. We played the MLS, we played against Man United, we played against Barcelona, and we also played against Nürnberg. Those are 4 games. Then we played in the Emirates Cup. But this summer, I'm looking at the preseason schedule, and Arsenal having Manchester United and Liverpool so far. So let's wait and see if there's going to be more preseason. But I don't think there's going to be more preseason because of the Euros. Actually, I've just remembered it. I think it's because of the Euros. So Mikel Arteta wants his striker to sign preferably even before the end of June. The Euros are starting on the 14th of June, and I think they will end on the 14th or 15th of July. So Mikel Arteta preferably wants his striker to come in prior to the 15th of June or before the Euros actually begin. And that's going to be a very big job for Edu to do. That's going to be a very difficult job for Edu to do, because there are not so many strikers right now that are just there to be signed in June. I mean, you look at Isak, you look at Osimhen, you look at all these strikers that are available. Their deals are going to be hard. Their deals are going to take some time. Obviously, Arsenal have to, mind their financial fair play position. So that means that it might be, it might be difficult. But why I think Mikel is spot on here, and I said it, yesterday, if you sign your players nice and early, if you bring in your players and they settle in, you've actually got a chance to, present a squad next season that is cohesive, a squad that knows each other, and a squad that actually has new members that are equally as good and settled as the old members. And the next season for me that we're going into is a season that defines the fate of Mikel Arteta. It's a season that, if he doesn't deliver, you sack him. It's as simple as that. If Mikel Arteta doesn't deliver next season, if he doesn't win either of the FA Cup, Premier League, or Champions League, you've got to sack him. Simple as that. So he wants to strike up before June ends, and we are going to see which names we are looking at. But that could actually be a hectic summer. Now, Newcastle have said that they want 200 million in Alexander Isak. And that actually, for me, that puts Alexander Isak off the list of strikers that Arsenal are looking at. Off the list of strikers that Arsenal are looking at. It's very, very evident Castle don't want to sell. And Arsenal want to spend around maybe 200 million across the shop. We want to sign, a number of players across the pitch. So maybe one in the 6, one in attack, one in defense, and maybe a new goalkeeper. So when you think about that, that would be around 4 or 5 signings that would cost around, maybe 150 or maybe 200 million. So I don't think Alexander Isak alone is going to be the guy that Arsenal go and spend 200 million on. I don't think that deal is going to happen. And Charles Watts has been talking about it today, and he said, I do not see at any point in time Arsenal signing a new Declan Rice, or Arsenal tabling, financial figures close to what we tabled for Declan Rice. So you're going to have many signings, good transfers, but for cheaper prices. So Alexander Isak, however much I would have loved him, I don't think he's gonna sign for us. I don't think he is the number 9 striker that Arsenal are going to bring in. However, this is what I want to say with Alexander Isak. If Arsenal really want to bring in one attacker, and when I mean what I mean by one attacker is one winger and one forward. So you're bringing in a player who can do both. It should be Alexander Isak, because you look at the work he does on the left-hand side and also on the right-hand side sometimes. He is magnificent. He is phenomenal. He's got the ability to play in a 4-3-3 in a fluid system that doesn't really constrain him and restrict him with positions. That's one of the things I like about Alexander Isak. If Arsenal are willing to sign a striker and a winger, then Alexander Isak is not your guy, because as a winger, he would be very expensive, and I don't think Arsenal are going to spend just 200 million just for a winger. Then for a striker, he ain't clinical. He ain't the guy. He ain't the guy. Yes, he scored 20 this season, and he scored a couple of penalties. By the way, we shouldn't forget that. But he ain't the clinical number 9. So Alexander Isak off the list. Let's talk about Benjamin Sesko, and let's talk about Brian Brobby. Brian Brobby, actually, at Ajax. And I want us to start with Sesko because he's been in the news, and he really brings out the profile of what Arsenal are looking for in terms of a striker in this market. So, Benjamin Sesko is going to make his decision in the next 2 weeks. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. He's going to make his decision amongst all the options that he has been given. He's going to make his decision whether he wants to stay in the German Bundesliga with RB Leipzig, which for me would be a little bit highly unlikely. Not really highly unlikely, but I would be surprised if he decides to stay in the German Bundesliga and leave a chance to play in the Premier League. The second option that he has been offered is 2 deals in Saudi Arabia. And all sources close to the player are saying there is no chance Benjamin Sesko goes to Saudi Arabia. But you never know, right? Remember the Chinese market and how, players ran to the Chinese market as if there was football there. I've told you guys, the markets, they're countries where football is a seed in infertile soil. China, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the Major League Soccer you go there to retire. So Ben Sesko has 3 options. The Premier League, including Arsenal. At least Arsenal is one of the clubs that we know, but also Tottenham Hotspur are very keen on getting him as their next number 9 after losing Harry Kane last summer. So Saudi Arabia, which we have been told that he's not going to join, and we also have the option to stay in the German Bundesliga. Leipzig don't want to sell, and Leipzig are in a very difficult position because his release clause runs out in June. So any club that has 55 million pounds, which so many clubs actually have 55 million pounds. When you look at the spending power of Premier League clubs, Bournemouth can trigger that. Everton Everton have financial problems, but they can trigger that. Even Crystal Palace can trigger that. But I'm thinking these 5 clubs are going to try to trigger that release clause before the end of June. That will be Arsenal, Tottenham, Manchester United, Chelsea. Those 4 clubs. Did I say 5? Okay, 4, right? 4 clubs. I won't be surprised if your Aston Villa is there trying to sign him for 55 million. That is something they can do. So I don't see him stay in the Bundesliga. I don't see him go to Saudi Arabia. I see him coming to the Premier League. Can Arsenal convince him, agree personal terms before his release clause expires, and bring him to the Emirates Stadium? We are waiting. But that's what Mikel Arteta wants. He's high on the list. He's one of the players that are ticking many boxes when it comes to what Arsenal want. A young striker who can sit on the bench, who can compete with Kai Havertz, a young striker who can actually, come in for a lesser fee. The other name that we have to talk about is Brian Brobby. Brian Brobby is a 22-year-old Dutch international playing at Ajax at the moment, and he's one of the strikers that are really, really exciting. So if you're thinking about the exciting names in world football, Brian Brobby is one of them. These are his numbers. Last season, scoring 13 goals and 3 assists. This season, scoring 18 goals and 8 assists. And by the way, this is a season where Ajax have struggled. This is a season where Ajax have not had, any kind of joy or any kind of reason to celebrate. And he has had fantastic numbers, 18 goals and 8 assists. Now, I'm not going to be very gassed up and very, excited about Brian Brobby. But why I think Brian Brobby has a big chance of joining Arsenal this summer, think about it. What are Arsenal looking for? A player that can compete with Kai Havertz, maybe not even compete, but a player that can be kind of an understudy backup. A player who's young, that if he doesn't get the game time, they can sell on in the future when he's 25, 26. That is Brian Brobby. He's 22. They're also looking for a young, enthusiastic number 9. They're looking for someone who's got something different from Kai Havertz. That's Brian Brobby. They're also looking for someone whose price tag is a little bit down. That is Brian Brobby. So I won't be surprised if Arsenal eventually fail to get Sesko and we go with Brian Brobby at Ajax. But this is what I want to say. All the 3 options are uninspiring and they don't speak any music to my ears at all. Kai Havertz remaining as number 9. I don't like that. Benjamin Sesko at 20 years to come in and lead the line. I'm not interested. Brian Brobby from Ajax. We know how players have come into the Premier League from Netherlands, especially attacking options, and how they have struggled. Don't let me start with Memphis Depay. Don't let me start with Steven Bergwijn. Don't let me start with all these ridiculous signings, the Antonys. Players who are coming from the Dutch Eredivisie doing a lot of crap, and then they come in the Premier League and they flop. I'm not convinced about any of them. But let's wait and see. Like I said, I will be here. I'll be reporting every single story. You guys are lucky to have me. Like, very lucky.